based on some other studies from my colleague, our dietary pattern is actually mostly towards westernized rather than the true, that means the traditional diet.
Yes, correct.
The only thing is with Malaysia, we are a bit stuck because we are very open with a market. We have international food, that's so-called fast food, that is very low source of fiber. Okay, but we also have, don't neglect, we also have our Malaysian fast food. We have our Mamak. I'm not saying that they are horrible or anything, but it's just like we are actually, besides than just having double burden disease, underweight and overweight, we're also having double burden food that is actually on our plate. So with that, both food, coming back to our culture as well, those who are not very used to having vegetables from young, they're not going to ask for it. Okay, so if you look into a combination of both, your fiber intake will be less. Alright, that's where our dietary pattern is a bit spoiled, because fiber less, more fat, more sugar from our food. And the portion size, I'm sure not many will follow the suku-suku separuh. It's actually like separuh for everything, you know. Yes. But that's where the fiber coming less, because the grain is already processed. We are having more ultra-processed food, and the vegetables and the fruits taking also less. In fact, there's some studies been by NHMS, National Health Mobility Survey, among the adolescents, or maybe some of the recent AIA who's actually doing it as well. Maybe very few, only 5% of our Malaysian who are receiving enough fruits and vegetables. But bear that in mind, fruits and vegetables is one of the food that provide the fiber. You still need taking from the right types of carbohydrate. Just to share with you, based on our adolescent cohort or even our breast cancer survivors, even though they have survived, the fiber intake is not even more than 5 grams per crude fiber. And therefore the children, this is even more sad. The crude fiber itself is less than 4 grams. We are supposed to get 20 to 30, yes, right? Correct. So that is our target. You just imagine 4 towards the 20, so about 1/6.
About 20% of the daily requirement.
So this is where the problem starts. When you are adult, we can do intervention, but the behavior-wise is a bit more challenging. But the adults normally will have the kids, and the kids are not eating healthy as well. So they are being predisposed to unhealthy eating from young, and they will continue until adulthood. And Malaysian, I tell you, very, very creative. They can have nasi lemak goreng, your ice cream also can goreng, right?
Yes.
So it's very energy dense. So coming back to your question, I agree with you. We are one of the place that is actually for food heaven. But if you're talking about healthy, it's a bit challenging, that where education and promotion is needed for that. A lot of people get confused when saying plant-based, they are turning to vegetarian only. What we are trying to say being plant-based is actually out of your 7 days of your diet that you're taking, maybe 1 or 2 days you're trying to be focused more vegetables or something that is more on a plant-based. Because there's most of the times when people are actually looking at food as food itself, they don't look at it is going to have the impact to the environment. If you are promoting as well plant-based, in a good way, you are also trying to minimize the climate change and things like that. That is one thing if you look at a bigger picture. But if you're looking into for ourselves, what is good about plant-based? They are the food that contains a lot of fiber, antioxidants, vitamins, that normally if you're taking from processed food, it will be leached out. Okay, and all these things are important for your bacteria in your stomach or your gut, who actually now consider your second brain. Okay, so when you are actually having what we call it, that the plant-based diet, what you should be focusing is, yes, in terms of milk, rather than just having milk, normal milk, you can actually having soy milk that is already enriched or fortified with calcium. Or even though for your vegetables that you want to have, either you want to actually make it your cereals, you want to put something extra. So that is pretty much the cereal base can be from plant-based as well. So what is basically trying to do here, you diversifying the way or the normal food consumption. That's what I'm trying to highlight, because otherwise what happened with our setup, weekend is the time to go out, ended up at the fast food.
Makan-makan.
Yes. So why not you try to do it during your weekdays with your family or your kids or your friends. Try to incorporate 1 or 2 days if you find it difficult with a plant-based diet, and over the weekend as well. So I think plant-based diet, pretty much if you put it in your daily schedule, you diversifying it, is actually going to have a better impact in the future, but yet to be confirmed because we haven't. But I can see the effect already to your gut microbiome. You see, with nowadays there's an advancement in the technology. If you are in the West, because they have more vegetarian, even though they are what we call it, they are taking their meat or whatnot, is actually based on a plant, either soy or corn. Yeah, so they are actually diversifying because they know that these are the food that they can use it to replace the meat, tempeh or tofu. But there's so many from the lentils that they can actually have it, very rich in antioxidants. And even though for our vegetables, whenever we talk about healthy, they always assume always having salads. Right? And then they start to talk about very costly. I cannot eat that. I said you're looking into international salads. Your back door, yes, a lot of local salads. Your ulam. So when you're talking about plant-based, it's coming back to that. It's the diversifying. What I'm trying to highlight here is actually, you are right, we have to go towards plant-based, but it's also good to see what are within our country that is healthy that we can look into it. So coming back to your question is, plant-based is a lot of things that is available out there, and especially you can diversify in terms of you can have it from corn, you can have it make it your kacang dal, or you can actually kacang kuda, and all those things are actually healthy, but it is almost neglected now because it's not served as snack. We know things such as grilling or things such as your steam or bake is actually going to be more healthier compared if you keep on doing the deep frying. Even though for deep frying, if you're actually just using a one-off the oil, that is considerably, they consider as healthy because more of the antioxidants are going to be there. However, whatever that you're doing, such as you are grilling and things like that, it is always recommended you cover them, then only you grill, rather than exposing to the to what we call it, to the heat. Right? It's the same like, you know, like how those days when you want to grill fish, they always put in your daun pisang.
Yes.
Okay? Or nowadays a bit more modern, people putting in aluminium because they just want to make sure that it's less been exposed, either if you're doing grilling outside to the charcoal or just from the heat itself, which is, I think, is a good practice. So varieties of those is much better than, like I said just now, baking, grilling and things like that is much better than the one that you're deep frying. The issue in Malaysia is actually, if I'm talking to health professionals, they know they don't recycle the oil. But if you're talking to the layman public, then the more the oil is still look clear,
yes,
3 times also fine, right? I think sometimes it's not fair for us to judge them. They don't know. So maybe it's our responsibility also to teach them what would be the best way to actually move forward. So I guess coming back to your questions, cooking, trying something new. But one thing we can start to not to do more would be try to put not to add so much salt in your cooking, and then diversifying in terms of colors of your vegetables, and also in terms of your practice. It's also important when you're doing your cooking, you enjoy them.
Biogreen.